everyone. This is Miss List, and I'm here with 4.6, which is on a lab technique called the titration. So, a titration is, as I mentioned, a common laboratory method that we use to analyze and determine the unknown concentration or molarity of a substance using a chemical reaction and known values. So, the titrant is the solution that we know everything about. And the titrant is usually what goes in this piece of lab equipment called the burette. And it gets delivered. So this is my burette over here in this diagram. It gets delivered usually dropwise to the analyte. And the analyte is in this flask here. The analyte is the one that we are trying to find out stuff about. So the equivalence point is the point in the titration where the amount of titrant is added is completely enough to neutralize / react with the analyte. And so at the equivalence point, moles of the titrant equal moles of the analyte. This does not necessarily mean the mole ratio is 1-to-1. That would be determined by the balanced chemical equation. That just means that at the equivalence point, the moles are equal. Now I should note that this is a typical lab technique that is used when we analyze acids and bases. However, that's not the only use for titrations. For example, I do a lab with my students where we're doing a redox reaction. So there is many different applications. Typically, like I said though, where you're going to see this the most is with acids and bases, which is what the focus of some of these graphs are that I'm about to show you. The endpoint of a titration refers to the point at which the indicator changes color. So usually we're doing this experiment and we're adding our titrant until we see a color change. Coming back up here to our diagram, I'm going to be looking for a color change down here that will tell me when the titration is over. And that is the endpoint. So here are some examples of titration curves, and because we typically use this with pH, we'll cut this out. Here are a few examples of titration curves, which is the graph that we can make on titrations. Now, because this is typical for acid-base reactions, you'll notice that we have on our y-axis and then the volume of our base added. And so this is an example of a strong acid titrated with a strong base. Our base would be our titrant because we are adding that to our acid. That's why the pH starts low. And then we have this dramatic rise where the graph almost becomes vertical here in the middle. And the midpoint of that part is what we call the equivalence point. Now, for strong acids and strong bases, the equivalence point of those reactions is always going to be 7 because this is a neutralization. Similarly, if I have an acid as my titrant, then that means that a base would be in my flask, and so the pH starts really high, but the general shape is the same. And again, when you have strong acid, strong base, we see that equivalence point equal to 7. For a weak acid and weak base titration, the shape of the graph looks a little bit different. And so I just want to point this out. I'm sure this will be discussed more in Unit 8, which is a deep dive on acids and bases. But just to plant the seeds, here in the left diagram, we have a weak acid titrated with a strong base. So again, this is our titrant that we're adding. That would be in the burette. And notice that they actually have the strong acid graph on here. We're not starting at as low of a pH with a weak acid, and the shape of the curve is much different, where with a strong, it stays kind of more horizontal and then has a dramatic. And when we have a weak acid, that slope is definitely different than a strong acid. The other thing to note is when you're dealing with one weak and one strong, that equivalence point is definitely not going to be exactly at 7. And we'll talk about why that is again when we deep dive acids and bases in Unit 8, but just to present you with an intro. So Most of our examples here are lab scenarios where we're trying to use the information that we know to figure out the molarity of an unknown substance. So here we have a 0.350 molar solution of sodium hydroxide, and that's reacted with 25 mils of an unknown molarity of sulfuric acid. So sulfuric acid is my unknown, and it says that we use 25 milliliters. My known would be my base. That's what I'm titrating with, my titrant. So this would be my titrant, and this would be my analyte, the thing that I'm trying to figure out. And it's just good to know these vocabulary words for lab settings. We know the molarity of our titrant, and it says it took exactly 17.3 milliliters to get to the equivalence point. Before I do anything, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that my equation is balanced. And presently, I notice that I have 2 sodiums on the right. I need 2 on the left. That's going to give me 2 hydroxides. So I am going to need a 2 here in front of water. That's going to become important here in a second when we do our mole ratio. So I'm going to start with my known, and I'm going to find the moles of the known. And in general, when you're doing stoichiometry or any type of calculation like this, it's always good to be in moles. So I tell my students, when in doubt, find moles and then see if that gets you somewhere. So I'm going to use the 0.350 as the molarity of my base, and in liters, that would be 0.0173. And so I can figure out that my moles of my base is 0.00. We're going to keep 3 significant figures, 606. Now here's where my mole ratio comes in. It is not a 1-to-1 ratio. So if I have this many moles of NaOH, I need to then figure out, well, it took twice as many moles of NaOH. That's why that coefficient became so important for every 1 mole of my acid, my analyte. I'm actually going to end up dividing this, and it's going to become 0.00303, and that's how many moles of H2SO4. Final step is I'm trying to find my molarity of the analyte. I'm going to come back to my molarity equation. I just found the moles, and it told me in the problem that it took 25 milliliters, 0.0250 in the bottom. Again, that's just converting it to liters. And keeping 3 significant figures, my answer is 0.121. And that is my unknown molarity. So again, this is a kind of combination of some stoichiometry, understanding what a titration is, that it's a lab technique to find out an unknown. On number 2, we have a colorless solution of hydrogen peroxide is titrated with an acidified dark purple solution of potassium permanganate. This is actually the oxidation reduction titration that I do. As shown below with the net ionic equation, the student places 5 mils of hydrogen peroxide in an Erlenmeyer flask and fills the potassium permanganate with the burette. So it says, describe the appearance of the solution as the potassium permanganate is added. So originally it's going to be clear because hydrogen peroxide is clear. And as I add my potassium permanganate, that's a purple color, it's going to start as clear. Then as I add some drops of purple, it's going to turn purple, but then the purple goes away. Eventually, as I continue to, well, and then it'll go back to clear. Eventually, as I continue to add, then eventually it's going to turn a pale pink color and it's going to stay. And that's what we're looking for, is when the pink stays, that's going to be the end of our titration. Now they're asking for what is the net ionic equation that causes the pale pink color at the end. So on part B, they're asking what component in the net ionic equation, because they just gave us the net ionic equation up here, causes the pale pink color. And this is the purple. And at the end, the pale pink color, it's not going to be water. which is one of my products. It's not going to be the oxygen gas that gets released. So my pink color has to be coming from the Mn2+. On part C, we have a particle diagram of hydrogen peroxide shown above, and they want to know which of the following options best represents the titration mixture when we are halfway to the equivalence point. So when we are halfway to the equivalence point, that means that I'm going to have some of my hydrogen peroxide, but I'm also going to see the appearance of Mn, because that's one of my products that it shows up to turn it pink. Now, looking at my options, I can automatically eliminate B because we have some of our permanganate ion. And we know that that goes away when we titrate. So that gets reacted away. So I'm going to eliminate both B and D because of the presence of that permanganate ion. That's a reactant and it's reacting with the peroxide to form the Mn. Option A, if we count up how many we have 1, 2, 3, 4 versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 peroxides. Would be further along because I have more products. My manganese is a product. So out of these options, I would choose C just based on the fact that there's only 2, which means it's probably not all the way to the equivalence point. On part D, they want us to determine the molarity of the hydrogen peroxide if a 5 ml sample requires 7.98 mils of 0.15 MnO to reach the equivalence. So remember, we always start with our known, and I want to figure out how many moles that is. So my known is the KMNO4. And it said that it was 0.798 milliliters, so that's going to be 0.00798 liters. So I'm going to take 0.15 times 0.00798, and I'm going to be keeping 2 significant figures. It's going to be 0.0012, and that's moles of MnO4. Dropping the K because that ends up being a spectator ion. Now, similar to what we did before, I want to go back up here to my balanced chemical equation and see what my mole ratio is. So it is 2 MnO4s for 5 peroxides. So I come back down here and I need to complete my mole ratio. So it was 2 MnO4s for 5 peroxides. So I'm going to take my 0.0012 times 5 and then divide it by 2. And that gives me 0.0030, and that's moles of H2O2. Similar to what we did before, we want the molarity. So I'm going to take my newfound moles and divide it by the volume of peroxide that I used. And it says here in the problem that I used 0.005 liters. All right, so this tells me that my peroxide solution is 0.6 molar. Next, final problem here for this section, they want us to calculate the percent by volume of hydrogen peroxide in aqueous solution. And it gives us a density that says 1.02 grams per milliliter for hydrogen peroxide. So it's essentially a giant unit conversion. If I know that my molarity is 0.60, that's moles per 1 liter, then I know that 1 liter is equal to 1,000 milliliters. Then I'm going to change that to grams, so like liters are gone. Next, I'm going to say that 1 mole of peroxide is equal to 34.02 grams on top. And now moles cancel. And it says that I have 5 milliliters of solution. That was back up in part D. And so that's going to get my milliliters to cancel. If I do that, I'm going to multiply 0.6 times 34.02 times 5. And then I'm going to divide that by 1,000. And I get, keeping my two significant digits, 0.10. And that's going to tell me how many grams of H2O2. Now, I am going to take my 0.10 grams and use that density that they gave me. So I know that the density is 1.02 grams per 1 milliliter. Now I can get grams to cancel by dividing by 1.02. And so this gives me keeping my two significant figures, milliliter. And the reason that I needed that is because they want a percent by volume. So it was 0.10 milliliters of hydrogen peroxide out of a 5 ml solution, and then I take that times 100 to get it in a percent. So that means this was a solution that was 20% H2O2. So that's actually really strong. Your regular commercial hydrogen peroxide that like you buy at the pharmacy is only 3%. So this is a much higher percentage. Okay, we'll do it for titrations. Again, this comes up again when we do Unit 8 bases, but this is a nice introduction to the kind of calculations that go with titrations, and it does go along with stoichiometry because it's just an application of stoichiometry. The titration part is basically the setup we talked about here at the beginning. That's what makes it a titration, is that we are using a known compound called the titrant to figure out an unknown analyte. But after that, it's just stoichiometry. All right, y'all. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you. Have a great day.